What is C? What is C? So you can simply say that C is structured programming language. C is structured programming language. So what is structured programming language? Structured programming language is nothing but, so first of all, here I want to explain structured programming language. What is structured programming language? We have to discuss. So this approach is used to divide the large program into several functions. Into several sub-functions. Suppose when you want to divide the large program into several sub-functions, such type of approach is called structured programming approach. So what is C is nothing but, in C, we have to divide the program into several functions. Suppose if you want to write the simple program, then you can write only one function. Such function is called main function. Suppose if you want to provide simple solution, no need to write multiple functions. Just you can write a one function. Such function is called main function. In case if you want to divide into several sub-functions, because if you want to implement the large program, you have to divide a function into different sub-function. So sub-function 1, sub-function 2, like this. Now, based on this example, we have to prepare the syntax for C language. So the syntax, when you want to write any C program, you have to follow one structure. Such structure is called structure of C programming language. So every programming is having structure. C is having structure. Java is having also structure. Python is also having structure. C++ is having also structure. Structure is nothing but not a approach. Structure is nothing but how can you write the program? How can you implement the program is called structure. So what is the approach to implement the program is called approach. Here C is structured programming approach. Suppose if it is C++, suppose if you want to write C++ programming, so C++ is nothing but C++ is procedural programming language. Procedural programming language. So what is procedural programming language? Same definition, but this approach, suppose whenever anybody will ask you about what is procedural programming language, procedural programming language is nothing but this approach is used to divide the large program into several procedures. Now, if you want to divide it into procedures, then it is called procedural programming language. Suppose what about Java? Java is object-oriented programming language. Java is object-oriented programming language. Now, how can you say that what is object-oriented programming language? Same definition. The same definition, how can you write the definition? Object-oriented programming approach is used to divide the large program into several objects. Suppose when you want to divide the program into objects, that is called object-oriented. When you want to divide the program into procedures, is called procedural programming language. When you want to divide the large program into several sub-functions, is called structured programming language. So simple, these are the three approaches. The first approach is used for C language. The second approach is used for C++. The third approach is used for Java. So what is Java? Java is object-oriented. What it means that when you want to write any Java program, it is implemented based on objects. What is C++? So C++ is procedural programming language. What it means that When you want to write any C++ code, you have to implement with the help of procedures. What is C? What is structured programming approach? So structured programming approach is nothing but when you want to write programs in C, you must use functions only. So that's the main reason we are writing any program with the help of main function and also followed by the sub functions only. So why we are using main, why we are using functions in C? Because C is structured programming. So this is the just general idea. What type of C language is? So it is middle level programming language. So C is middle level. So what it means that C can middle level programming language. So middle level is nothing but it is not high level, it is not low level. So it supports both high level programming and low level programming. Next, which compiler we have to use? So which translator? So C is compiler programming language. Compiler programming language. So everyone must have idea on these three aspects first. So what is the first aspect? What is the C? C structured programming. It is a middle level programming language. Next one is what? C is compiler programming language. The most important point is C is mission dependent. C is mission dependent. What is the meaning of the mission dependent? So it is depending on operating system. It is depending on system. So it is directly interacting with the system. So it is working very fast. So it is very, very important. These are the 4 key points for understanding C. Suppose whenever an interviewer will ask you, what do you know about C? So no need to mention C was developed by Dennis Ritchie in 1972. These all are the old information. So simply you can say that C is structured programming language. It is a middle level programming language. It is compiler programming language. It is mission dependent. Then they will ask you, what is structured programming language? Structured programming language is nothing but it is function oriented. So when you want to write any programs in C, we can use functions. So C is structured programming language. Structured programming is nothing but when you use functions, then we call it as a structured programming language. Now, what is middle level programming language? Middle level is nothing but we can write both low level applications and high level applications in C. That's the main reason C is middle level programming language. So what is compiler? So we are using compiler for converting source code into mission code. What is mission dependent? So C is directly interacted with the system. So these are the 4 key points. Now, let me discuss the main important of structure of C language. So structure of C. Structure of C. I request you to please don't send recording option. We will not provide any recorded option for your end. For first 2 days, we will give you link to access recorded class. Don't worry for that. So please all of you listen. So it is very, very important. Structure of C programming language. Structure of C programming language. So what is structure of C programming language? So a C program is divided into several sections. Every C program or any C program or any program, a program is divided into several sections. A program is divided into several sections. So what are the sections we have to discuss? The first section is documentation section. The first section is documentation section. It is very, very important section. Every section I want to give you full clarification with example program. Please listen first. First section is documentation section. Second one is what? Link section. Next one is definition section. Next one is global declaration section. Global declaration section. Next one is main function section. In this section, it has two parts. One is declaration part. Another one is executable part. So it is very, very important sections. And the last and final one is subfunction section. Subfunction declaration section. Already we discussed declaration section. So these are the sections of C programming language. So somebody will ask you, so here structure programming is, suppose we are called as a C structured programming. Here structure of C, both are not same. So structured programming is an approach. What is the approach? We have to divide the program into several subfunctions. Here structure of C is nothing but how can you write a C program? We can, when you want to write any C program, you have to follow this structure. What is this structure? First of all, you have to write documentation section. The first statement should be documentation section. The next statement should be link section. The next statement should be definition. So we are giving some, simply say that, some route map. So route map to create a C program. So this is the syntax. In this syntax, what is the first section? The first section is documentation section. The first section is documentation section. The second section is link section. The second section is what? Link section. What is the third section? Definition section. What is the next section? Global declaration section. So what is the fifth section? Main function section. What is the sixth section? Subfunction declaration section. So a C program is divided into 6 sections. First section, documentation. Second one is link section. Third one is definition section. Fourth one, global declaration section. Fifth one, main function section. And the last one is subfunction declaration section. First of all, we have to discuss about what is documentation section. When we use documentation section, we have to try to focusing on these topics first. So, okay, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Subfunction declaration section is also called user defined section. Please respond. Am I audible? Am I audible? Please give a response. Okay, okay. Thank you. Okay, ma'am. Okay, okay. Thank you, all of you. So first, please, all of you listen. What is documentation section? So here, first of all, if you check your book, so if you are having same books on your bag, how can you identify which book is for the concerned subject? You don't know. So for every book, you can use first page for naming the title of the book. Suppose this is the book for maths. Suppose maths notes, physics notes, chemistry notes, computer notes. Just you have to mention some information on the book. Then you can understand what is that book. At the same time, documentation section is also works like that. So what is the documentation section? This section, especially what? Documentation section. Documentation section. So documentation section is nothing but section is used to declare the name of the program or used to write the comment lines, other details, and so on. So on. So what is the documentation section? Simply can understand that this section is used to declare the name of the program. When you want to mention the name of the program, you have to use documentation section. Suppose I want to mention some other details. So this program was developed by some XYZ name. Suppose if you want to mention the version of the particular program, everything if you want to mention, you have to mention in documentation section. So this section is not executed by compiler. So the compiler will ignore this section. The compiler will not execute this section because this section is just giving the information only. So this section is what? It is optional section. It's your interest. If you want to write, you can write. It is optional. It is optional section. Optional section is nothing but it's your interest. So compiler will not execute this section because compiler ignores this section. So this is just only for mentioning some basic idea or basic name of the program or any other details you have to mention. So how can you understand whether it is documentation section or not? So the documentation section, it begins with /star. It begins with /star and ends with /. So whenever if you observe, if any information is begins with /star and ends with /, that should be related to documentation section. That should be related to documentation section. So documentation section is nothing but so please listen. We will provide a class link, no problem. But please listen. Just now, right now, I am start the class. Don't worry for that. Please listen. So what is the documentation section? Documentation section is nothing but what? It is especially used to declare the name of the program, or it is used to write the comment lines, or it is used to mention the other details. So how can you identify the documentation section? This section begins with /star and ends with /. Compiler will not execute this document section. Compiler ignores this section. So this is the first one. This is the first one. Next, what is the second one? What is the second one? The second one is what? Link section. So many of you try to understand what is link section. So first of all, I want to tell you, just I want to implement the program. I want to implement a program. Suppose I want to implement one program. So this is my program, suppose. Now I want to read some data by the user, or I want to print some data on the screen, or else I want to use some existing functions. So because C is structured programming language, So whenever C language was developed, they developed some functions. So already the software, the C language developer developed some functions. Such functions are existed in library. So already some functions already implemented by Dennis Ritchie. So Dennis Ritchie implemented functions are called library functions. Library functions. So already Dennis Ritchie team developed some functions. Such functions are called library functions. What are the library functions? Already existed function in C language. Library functions. So when you want to talk about programming in C, everything is implemented based on the functions only. In C, when you want to write, when you want to read any data, when you want to print any data, when you want to do something, always you have to talking about functions only, because C is structured programming. Structured programming in the sense, everything you can written with help of functions only. So whenever C language was developed by Dennis Ritchie, already he developed some functions. Such functions are called library functions. What are the library functions are called? Existed functions. Already functions C language library లో ఉన్నాయి. మనం డెవలప్ చేయకపోయినా ఆల్రెడీ డెనిస్ రిచ్ కొన్ని లాంగ్వేజ్ లో ఈ ఫంక్షన్స్ డెవలప్ చేసేసారు. అయితే ఈ ఫంక్షన్స్ అన్ని కూడా వాట్ ఆర్ ది సిమిలర్ టైప్ ఆఫ్ ఫంక్షన్స్? ఎవ్రీథింగ్ దే హ్యావ్ టు స్టోర్ ఇన్ సమ్ హెడర్ ఫైల్స్. అంటే ఈ హెడర్ ఫైల్స్ లో ఏముంటాయి? లైబ్రరీ ఫంక్షన్స్ ఉంటాయి. అంటే హెడర్ ఫైల్స్ లో, అంటే దిస్ హెడర్ ఫైల్ స్టోర్స్ ది లైబ్రరీ ఫంక్షన్స్. అంటే ఎవ్రీ హెడర్ ఫైల్ కంటైన్స్ డిఫరెంట్ లైబ్రరీ ఫంక్షన్స్. సో వాట్ ఆర్ దిస్ హెడర్ ఫైల్స్ అంటే యు నో ఆల్రెడీ stdio.h. వాట్ ఈజ్ stdio.h? అంటే స్టాండర్డ్ ఇన్పుట్ అవుట్పుట్ హెడర్ ఫైల్స్. What is the meaning of standard? Standard ante what you want to read, what you want to print. Generally what you want to read, what you want to print. Such type of header files is called stdio. IO means input output. Input ante what do you want to accept. Output ante what do you want to print on screen. So when you want to print or when you want to read, already some library functions will give you will help you for reading and printing data. అంటే లైబ్రరీ ఫంక్షన్స్ లో మనకి stdio.h లో రీడ్ చేయడానికి, ప్రింట్ చేయడానికి కొన్ని ఫంక్షన్స్ ఉంటాయి. అవే మీ అందరికీ తెలిసిన printf, scanf. అలా దేర్ ఆర్ ది డిఫరెంట్ హెడర్ ఫైల్స్ ఉన్నాయి. నెక్స్ట్ హెడర్ ఫైల్ చెక్ చేస్తే conio.h. con అంటే console input output. So con is nothing but console. io is nothing but input output dot header file. Console is nothing but black screen. Now if you want to interact with the black screen, you have to use this header file. In this header file, what are the library function? clr, scr, get, ch, like that. So in conY.h, what are the header files? clr, scr. At the same time get, ch. So there are the different header files already, you know, in regular academics, but I will explain all the header files. Don't worry for that. Next, string, suppose string.h, math.h. These all are the header files. These header files contains what? These header files contains library functions. So what are the library functions? Already existed functions in programming language where library functions are stored. So library functions are available in header files. What is header file? Header file contains collection of library functions. Can you tell me any few examples for the header files? stdio.h, conio.h, string.h. What are the header files in stdio.h? For example, printf, scanf. What are the examples? What are the library files available in conio.h? get, ch, clr, scr. What are the header files available in string.h? String upper, string lower, string concatenation, like that. So we will discuss everything later. Don't worry for that. 100% I will cover all the second semester syllabus. If you listen these classes, definitely you can write the examination for 75 marks, and also you will get more than 65 to 70 marks. I will give you full assurance for that. if you listen the classes regularly. Now, what is link section? So here, who is the boss for C programming language? So he's here boss is compiler. So whenever if you want to do anything, you have to take permissions from the compiler. So this link section, what is this? What is the section? This section gives instructions to compiler. So what is link section? I want to talk about link section. Link section. So what is this section? This section gives instructions to compiler to add library functions to the current program. So whenever if you want to access library functions, whenever if you want to add library functions to your program, you have to give instructions to compiler. Then compiler can understand and will allows you to store library functions in your program. So whenever if you want to access library functions directly, it will give you error. So here we have to give instructions to compiler. How can you give instructions to compiler? So you can give instructions to compiler with the help of this syntax. What is this syntax? Hash include. So what it means that we are giving instructions to compiler to include what you want to include, header file. So what are the header files? stdio.h. stdio.h. Here we are giving instructions to compiler to add library functions or header files to our current program. Whenever if you want to access our library functions in our program, definitely you must give instructions to compiler. A compiler instructions kavalante which section you have to use? Link section. Then what will happen in this stdio.h? What are the library functions are there? Printf, scanf. Then printf, scanf library functions will be added to your program. Then you can access. Directly if you access, it will give you error. If you want to access, definitely you have to take permission from the compiler. First of all, you have to inform everything to compiler. Whatever if you want to use in your program, everything you must give information to the compiler. Especially for library functions, you have to mention in the link section. So what is the link section? This section is used to link. This section is used to give instructions to compiler to link library functions and current. అంటే మన ప్రోగ్రామ్ కి ఆల్రెడీ ఎగ్జిస్ట్ అయిన ఫంక్షన్స్ ని లింక్ చేయాలి అనుకుంటే కంపైలర్ కి వీ హ్యావ్ టు గివ్ ఇన్స్ట్రక్షన్స్. ఆ ఇన్స్ట్రక్షన్స్ ఇవ్వాలంటే ఏంటి ఇచ్చారంట? లింక్ సెక్షన్ ఇచ్చారు. అందుకని మనం హ్యాష్ ఇంక్లూడ్ stdio.h, హ్యాష్ ఇంక్లూడ్ ponia.h, హ్యాష్ ఇంక్లూడ్ string.h, హ్యాష్ ఇంక్లూడ్ math.h. Suppose when you want to use mathematical functions, you must write math.h. Without writing math.h, if you access library functions, you will get error. When you want to access string functions directly without defining string.h, definitely it will give you error. Whatever if you want to access in your program, definitely you must give instructions to compiler to add the particular library into our current program. This is very, very important. Okay. Now second one is link section. What is the definition section? It is very, very important section. And also I will try to explain you clearly for definition section. Definition section. So definition section is nothing but simply can understand. How can you understand definition section? That definition section looks like hash define. Hash define. It begins with hash define. So what is the definition section? So This section is used to define symbolic constants. What is the definition section? This section is used to define symbolic constants. What is the symbolic constants? Fixed values. So what is the symbolic constants? Symbolic constants is nothing but fixed values, fixed constants. When you want to store the fixed constants in a variable, you have to use definition section. So what is the meaning of this symbolic constant? The value never be changed. The value never be changed. So just I will give you clarification on fixed constant. Suppose when you want to write hash define pi 3.14, you know that the pi value never be changed. Now if you want to store any fixed constants, you can use definition section. So how can you understand whether it is definition section or not? That definition section begins with hash define. So here hash define, hash include are called preprocessor drivers. So it is very, very important entry questions. So many companies will ask you about what are the preprocessor drives. So preprocessor drives is nothing but the preprocessors are begins with hash include hash define. It will give instructions to compiler before executing the program. Preprocessor ante program execution జరగకముందే కంపైలర్ కి ఇన్ఫర్మేషన్ ఇవ్వడానికి యూజ్ చేసే డ్రైవ్స్ అన్నమాట. అంటే అవి ఏంటవుతాయి? హ్యాష్ ఇంక్లూడ్, హ్యాష్ డిఫైన్. దీస్ టూ ఆర్ ది అంటే వాట్ ఎవర్ ప్రీప్రాసెసర్ డైరెక్టివ్స్ అంటారు. డ్రైవర్స్ కాకుండా మీకు డైరెక్టివ్స్ అని అడుగుతారు. సో క్వశ్చన్ ఈజ్ what is preprocessor directive? Preprocessor directive is nothing but preprocessor directive. So the we are giving instructions to compiler before compiling the program. What are the preprocessor drives? Hash include, hash define. So hash include stdio.h, hash define pi 3.14. Before we are giving prior information to compiler. Ante when you want to compiling the program, you can give instructions. That is okay. But we are giving information to compiler, prior information. Prior information is nothing but we are informing to the compiler before compiling program. Ante program execution anadi cheyadam kaadu. Compilation cheyakunde if you want to give some information to compiler, such type of directives is called preprocessor directives. So many interviewers will ask this question in campus placements. Again, for some students, just I want to explain from the beginning. First of all, what is C language? C is structured programming language. What is structured programming language? A program which is used to divide into functions. Now, just here I'm asking not structured programming. I'm asking you to explain. I'm asking you to give instructions on understanding the structure of C programming. Structure of C programming is nothing but it is a way to write program. So if you want to write any C program, you have to follow one structure. Such structure is called structure of C programming language. So structure of C programming language is used to write the program in particular format. So structure of C programming language is nothing but programming format or architecture of programming format. So now latest name is architecture of programming format. This is the format to write any C program. I'm just talking about C program only, right? So what is program? A C program is divided into several sections. What are the sections? Documentation section, link section, definition section, global declaration section, main function section, sub-function declaration section. Sub-function declaration section is also called user defined section. So it is defined by the user. We will discuss later. Don't worry for that. First of all, what is documentation section? So this section especially used to write name of the program. What are the names? So program name, biggest of two numbers, swapping of two numbers, right? Now we can write this type of programs with the help of documentation section. What is link section? Link section is nothing but what? Now already C language was developed by Dennis Ritchie. He developed some programs. Such programs are called functions. Such functions are existed in library. Such library functions are called library function. Library functions is nothing but predefined functions. Can you tell me some examples for the library functions? Printf, scanf, getch, clr, scr, string upper, string lower, power function. These all are the library functions. So these functions are already developed by the programmer. Now, if you want to access such library to your current program, then what will you do? We have to use link section. What is the use of the link section? This section gives information or give instructions to compiler. And this section is just that it gives instructions to compiler. Compiler instructions that for adding existing libraries to current program. అంటే లైబ్రరీ ఫంక్షన్స్ ని కరెంట్ ప్రోగ్రామ్ కి యాడ్ చేయడానికి పర్మిషన్ కంపైలర్ కి ఇవ్వడం కోసం మనం లింక్ సెక్షన్ ఇచ్చేస్తాం. సో హియర్ ఇఫ్ యూ అబ్జర్వ్ hash include is nothing but we are including existing libraries. So what are the existing libraries? I want stdio.h libraries. So stdio.h. Then what will happen? These existing libraries will be added to our current program. Now we can access. In case if you not write this library, this header files at beginning, you will get error. I will show you for that. Don't worry. Until link section అనేది header files ని మన ప్రోగ్రామ్ కి యాడ్ చేయడానికి కంపైలర్ కి ముందే ఇన్స్ట్రక్షన్స్ ఇస్తుంది. ముందే అంటే ఏంటంటే ప్రీ ప్రాసెసర్. ప్రాసెసర్ అంటే ఏంటి? ఎగ్జిక్యూషన్. ప్రీ ప్రాసెసర్ అంటే ఏంటి? ఎగ్జిక్యూషన్ జరగక ముందు. అంటే బిఫోర్ కంపైలింగ్ ది ప్రోగ్రామ్, వెన్ యూ వాంట్ టు గివ్ ఎనీ ఇన్ఫర్మేషన్ టు కంపైలర్, ఎప్పుడు ఇస్తామంట? ఇది ఇచ్చేస్తాం అంటే దెన్ వాట్ విల్ హ్యాపెన్ హియర్? దిస్ హెడర్ ఫైల్స్ విల్ బి యాడెడ్ టు ప్రోగ్రామ్ బిఫోర్ కంపైలింగ్. This variable will be added to program before compiling. Ante we are using these two before compilation. That's the main reason these two are called preprocessor directives. What are the preprocessor directives? So hash include, hash define are the preprocessor directives. We will give instructions to compiler to add them before compilation. Next, what is definition section? అంటే ఫిక్స్డ్ కాన్స్టెంట్స్, సింబాలిక్ కాన్స్టెంట్స్. వాట్ ఈస్ ద మీనింగ్ ఆఫ్ ది సింబాలిక్ కాన్స్టెంట్స్? ద వాల్యూ విల్ నెవర్ బి చేంజ్డ్. వెన్ యూ వాంట్ టు చేంజ్ ది వాల్యూ, ఇట్స్ ఇంపాసిబుల్ టు చేంజ్ ది వాల్యూ ఇన్ ది ప్రోగ్రామ్. వెన్ యూ వాంట్ టు చేంజ్ ది వాల్యూ ఇన్ ది ప్రోగ్రామ్, యూ హ్యావ్ టు మెన్షన్ ఇన్ main function or any other location. But when you define with hash define, the value will never be changed. It is the fixed constant. So how can you understand the definition section? This section defines with the hash define. What is the hash define is nothing but that is belongs to definition section. Now, what is global declaration? Now, especially when you want to write any C program, the program will execution starts from main function. అంటే ఎప్పుడే C ప్రోగ్రామ్ చేయాలనుకున్నా ఆ ప్రోగ్రామ్ ఎక్కడి నుంచి స్టార్ట్ అవుతుందంటే మెయిన్ ఫంక్షన్. అంటే ద ప్రోగ్రామ్ ఎగ్జిక్యూషన్ బిగిన్స్ ఫ్రమ్ మెయిన్ ఫంక్షన్. అంటే కంపైలర్ స్టార్ట్స్ ది ప్రోగ్రామ్ ఎగ్జిక్యూషన్ ఫ్రమ్ వన్ ఫంక్షన్. సచ్ ఫంక్షన్ ఈస్ ది మెయిన్ ఫంక్షన్. వెన్ యూ వాంట్ టు డిక్లేర్, ప్లీజ్ ఆల్ ఆఫ్ లిజన్, వెన్ యూ వాంట్ టు డిక్లేర్ ఎనీ వేరియబుల్స్ ఇన్సైడ్ ది మెయిన్ ఫంక్షన్, అంటే మెయిన్ ఫంక్షన్ ఇన్సైడ్ డిక్లేర్ చేస్తే దాన్ని ఏంటంటారు? లోకల్ అంటారు. అలా కాకుండా మెయిన్ ఫంక్షన్ అవుట్ సైడ్ అంటే ఇది ఇన్సైడ్ ఆఫ్ ది మెయిన్ ఫంక్షన్. ఇన్సైడ్, ఇట్ ఈస్ అవుట్ సైడ్. It is outside. When you want to declare any variables or functions inside the main function, either local functions or local variables. In case if you want to declare variables or functions at outside of the main function is called global declaration. What is the meaning of the global declaration? So this section is used to declare variables or functions at outside of the main method. Main method outside ఏదైనా డిఫైన్ చేస్తే that is called global declaration section.